Okay, my throat is already dry. Here I am. Hopefully this is working this time. Hi guys, thank you for your patience. Technology is not always on our side when we're doing these things, and I'm just pinning everyone who's participating again. Okay, Arlene is joining as we expected. Let me see. Okay, Arlene is coming in the room. We are waiting for. Hi, Arlene. Sorry about that.
Hi.
Hi. I turned my Wi-Fi off because I think that was what was like hampering our. So I'm gonna try to invite Emmanuel again.
Okay.
Hold on.
The sound is better too.
Yeah, I think you know how it is sometimes. The only thing is, let me see. So I just sent her a request. Hey, Emmanuel. Hi.
Hi, Tamu. Hi, Ollie.
Hello,
Hi.
nice to meet you.
And
Nice to meet you.
I'll introduce you guys in a second.
Okay.
Okay, so Paige is here. Let me get her in. Okay. Let me get her in. We're definitely gonna save this live. No worries about that. We're gonna save it. So don't worry. Basically, as the title of this live states, we're going to be talking about racism in the Italian media. I just want to say that this is going to be a productive space. You can bring your anger, but we're going to channel that anger into meaningful and impactful ways that we can educate everyone about racism. And do we have two mics on? No. So that's just something that I want to say. So bring your anger, but please don't let it get ugly and scary. This is not the space for that. The other thing I want to say is everyone here, we value everyone's opinion. We value everyone's point of view. I'm so happy that everyone that is joining this live is here with us, and I really appreciate and value their contribution to the conversation. I also want to say that I really I appreciate Diet Prada bringing this news to the forefront this week with the help of Louis Pisano. Because of them bringing it to the forefront, the news has spread and it's become global, and I think it's also empowered a lot of people, a lot of young Afro-Italians to speak out about this. I've been seeing more stories about it and more lives about it, and it's extremely important, especially in a country where there's such a reluctancy to talk about these issues and talk about racism and how white Italians are being racist because they're not acknowledging it and they don't even understand the negative impact they have. Paige is unable to join. I don't know why that is. Let me try again. And so you know what? I'm gonna have Arlene. Thanks, Louis. Thank you very much. Louis is here, and I just want to give him the credit where it's due because of his constant talking about these issues. Other news sites are picking it up, and they're talking about it. And because of this, either way, I don't know, if these these news personalities, they're responding and they're offering their apologies. And even though we're going to break those apologies down now and we're going to talk about them for what they are, but at least these conversations are being had. So I just want to shout out Louis and thank him for encouraging everyone to talk about this. And yeah, thank you so much. So I'm gonna let Arlene and Emmanuel introduce themselves right now, and I'm going to try to resolve this issue with Paige. So go ahead, ladies. Arlene, you start because you're a veteran.
I'm not a veteran. This is my second one, I think. Okay, my name is Arlene.
Like you are.
My name is Arlene Gibbs, and I live here in Italy. I've lived here for 13 years now, I think. I live in Rome. I'm originally from the United States. My parents are from the Caribbean. They're from St. Martin. Before I moved to Rome, I lived in Los Angeles for 10 years, where I worked in the film business. And currently, I am a screenwriter and an interior designer. So I basically have two careers. And I just started taking Italian lessons again because I spent most of last year in the Caribbean because of the lockdown. So I'm very happy to be here because I am very upset about this particular situation. And I can't wait to hear everyone's thoughts on it. I really believe had this not gone international, I don't think these two people would have ever apologized because I really believe they think they did nothing wrong, which is astounding to me in 2021. Okay. But I'm going to try to keep it, you know.
Like I said earlier, anger is valid and anger is necessary, and anger, when channeled into something powerful, brings about change. Mm-hmm. Let's focus on one thing here. In all of these instances, these racial tropes that they use as entertainment are extremely hurtful and extremely traumatizing. So yes, we have something to be angered about. So you don't have to hold back. We need to channel that into letting them hear us, letting them see us, and letting them understand what they're doing wrong. Emmanuel, it's so nice to have you here. Thank you for agreeing to be here, and thank you for the work that you're doing. I'll let you introduce yourself. I'm still working on Paige.
Thank you, Tamu, and hi, Arlene. So my name is Emmanuel Maréchal, and as you hear, I'm French, but I lived for 5 years in Italy where I've studied, and it's a country that I really love. So I've decided to start a project where I would interview Afro-Italian because I thought their experience was not, known, abroad. And through that project, I actually met my co-founder, Ariam, and with her, we have created a podcast called Black Coffee PDG, where we talk about the Black experiences in Italy. And actually, the podcast is also taking part to this movement called Cambierai. That is a movement created, to fight against all the stereotypes and especially racial stereotypes on the Italian national TV. So, but I'm going to talk about it maybe later on. But that's who I am in a nutshell.
Oh, thank you. So if you guys aren't familiar with this latest episode, because these episodes aren't new, these episodes have been going on for Italian TV history. What happened most recently is Michelle Hunsinger and her co-host Jerry Scotti. They did a sketch this week, and in that sketch, they made fun of the Chinese community. And if Diet Prada and Louis had not intervened, this would probably have gone unnoticed. But just 10 days before this latest episode, they also did a sketch that was based on an event that had happened a couple days earlier, a week or two earlier, where another personality was talking about her experience with working with women in need and women of color, and taking pictures with Black children in need, and it was extremely derogatory. It was insulting. They had a young Black child come on screen, and at the end of the sketch, when he wasn't leaving, the personality turns to him and calls him Congo. It was horrible. It was disgusting, and that was that was 10 days before. So this is what led Diet Prada and Louis to get this news out, and this is what we're talking about today, in case you're not familiar with the situation. So
should I mention something too, please?
Yes.
Because they've been doing many let's say events like this. The reason why Cambierai was born was basically because there was another event like this on TV, national TV, where this actress, I think she was called Valeria Fabrizi, She was shown by the host, by the TV host, a picture of her when she was younger, and she basically said that she didn't like this picture of her because she looked like the N word, like a person of color. So this is what started the movement Cambierai, and that was initiated by the people from the BLF movement from Bergamo. And by sending a letter of protest, explaining why this was derogatory, and that they were actually very tired of seeing all these stereotypes going on national TV, when Italian people actually, you have to pay for the TV even if you don't want to to see this kind of thing, TV insulting you. Yes, that's what I wanted to add. Sorry.
Thank you for providing that additional context to our conversation. So I want to open the floor up to you guys, and I want to, just get, you guys have now seen the apologies that were issued this week, and you guys saw the sketch. What's like, it's racism. Can you just speak to the racism that, Arlene, you're shaking your head. Go on.
It's not satire, okay? Satire done well is it's difficult. It's difficult to execute satire. It has to be a certain level of intelligence, wit, and you have to be clever. These two knuckleheads, they're not clever, they're not witty, it's not satire. Doing your eyes like that and speaking in gibberish is not satire. And I know sometimes when things are satirical, people get offended and say, oh my God, that's so offensive. There was a movie that came out in the States, maybe 10, 12 years ago called Undercover Brother. And some people didn't realize it was satire. They're like, oh my God, it's so racist. But everybody who worked on that project was Black. The director was Black, the screenwriter was Black, the producers were Black. We were basically, I didn't have anything to do with this project, but they were basically sending up like the stereotypes and having fun with it. That's satire. This is not satire. And oh, I'm sorry. What kills me is they did this skit, whatever you want to call it, 10 days after the Vi Congo, and they were called out for that, and they said on the air, meanwhile, these apologies, I don't think they've happened on the air yet, but this apology was on the air, and they're like, we're not racist. We're not racist. It's satire. They were making fun of this left-wing or center-left politician and saying that she's not as, making fun of her. And they're like, if you don't get the satire, it's because basically you're too stupid to get it. So for the Black community, we're too dumb to get satire. When this scandal happened and it went international because of Louis and Diet Prada, all of a sudden we're so sorry and we stand with the Asian community. Only because this woman is married to the CEO of a brand that sells in China. So they don't want that smoke. But for us, we're stupid. We don't get satire. So I read the apologies and they're dumb. I'm sorry. Saying you're blonde or that you're fat and that you're balding so you understand like oppression and discrimination and racism is so offensive to me. I'm like, what century are you in? This is not a good look.
I'll kind of summarize the apology for you guys. So the apology was basically, for me personally, like a page out of the I Am Not a Racist handbook, and it was very familiar to other apologies that you've probably seen over and over again when white people commit racist acts. And basically, yes, at one point, Michelle Hunziker, she says that she's blonde, and people have always made fun of her because she's blonde, and they've called her stupid. And the last time I checked, I mean, the privilege that you get as a blonde woman in the world can never be compared to the oppression that people of color have experienced. So that was like one of the things that stood out. And then towards the end, Scotty says, I'm fat and I'm bald and I'm obese, and like, I'm a victim also of people shaming me for those things, but I'm not complaining. So once again, it was out of the playbook, and they were their apology was centering themselves in the discussion, but they never stopped, in my opinion, to observe or to even try to understand where they had gone wrong. They immediately pulled out that playbook. They immediately started to defend themselves, and they stopped observing and they stopped listening. And so the conversation can't go forward because you're looking at that playbook and you're checking off all of the usual excuses that apply to you, and you're not doing any introspection to understand. The other thing that stood out was Scotty said that my Chinese friends didn't say anything. Okay, as a person of color, how many times have you not said anything because you're a victim of racism, and like you're traumatized and you don't even know how to handle the situation anymore because you've been gaslighted and you've been trained into taking this crap for so long, and you were just rendered speechless and numb. Meanwhile, they're making fun of you in the cheapest, vilest way. Emmanuel, I'm passing the mic to you.
For me, the satire argument was really weird, because I think in the article they also said, oh, but when we do satire, for example, Michelle was saying she's Swiss, she made satire, but Swiss people, when they make the Sicilian accent, but I'm like, it's part of your culture. When you do fun of your culture and the other people around you belong to the same culture, there is a certain understanding around it, right? Mm-hmm. That's why it is satire. But when you are making something and passing it satire, when you are basically mocking the features of a certain people, this is not satire, because you don't know about that culture. You don't know what are the standards and what is correct or not correct in that culture for you to say it's satire. I think it's really that point of satire for me was really important to point out, because in the comments I've seen that they say all the time that we don't know how to laugh about ourselves because we don't know what satire is, but you have to understand there is also a cultural part in the satire, and if you don't understand that cultural part, don't do it. Mm-hmm. Yes. Because you don't belong to that group, so don't do it because you don't know. If Asian people, you have some Asian stand-up comedians who do satire about their own people, and this is normal because this is the culture. And when all Asian people see this, they understand because they belong to that culture. But if you don't do it, in my opinion. There is also another thing that disturbed me is that Michelle Utzinger was saying that she has Asian ancestry, and I'm like, and so what? And so what? And she actually did a story, I think, this morning, explaining that, having her mother explaining that in the 18th century they have ancestors that had Asian that were Asian, and I'm like, yeah, but you, as in the society, you are a white woman. You hold the privilege of a white woman. So you cannot tell that you know the experience of Asian people just because in the 18th century someone in your family was Asian. That does not make any sense to me. And because, for example, for me, I come from a mixed family, so I have the father who raised me is white, my mother is black, my brother is mixed, and I happen to have a nephew. When I look at him, he's definitely white, and I know that when people see him, he's white. So his experience is going to be totally different from mine, from his dad, and from his grandmother, because it doesn't look black. And it's exactly the same for me, that I don't have the same experience as my brother because he's mixed. And even my mother, even though she's black, we don't have the same experience because she was she was an immigrant, African immigrant, and as for me, I'm French. It's a very different experience. So I don't think you can, try to use your DNA to absolve yourself of your racism. I don't think it's something that that is right. As for Jerry Scotty, he has not issued any even fake excuse before this article on the Corriere. He didn't say anything. He didn't utter a word because I think he felt in his right not to utter any kind of excuse. So this is.
In fact, in that article, his last line was, "And I hope that you guys hear our arguments." So once again, recentering himself in the conversation. And I also agree with you that I see in the comments that some people are mentioning the fact that they use that excuse. It's like that. It's the playbook. I have a friend that's. I have a that's. But racism is inherent. It's embedded in the system. It's embedded in our DNA. So regardless of whether or not your ancestor was in fact Asian or not, you yourself are moving through the world with your privilege and not even taking into consideration how you are hurting other people. And so that's the difference, you know?
I also think the last sentence from Jerry Scotti for me was really insulting. Even though I'm not Italian, when you see, it's not the first time the movement Cambiera is a thing, but it's not the first time that people addresses, these issues of racism on the TV. And each time they ask like the reason, like, what they did at Cambiera is like writing a letter, do a sit-in, so very legal stuff to be heard, to be seen, to be understood in their suffering of being represented that way on the TV. And you have that man, privileged man, that is telling you basically you have to hear us first because it's not important what you feel. It's us. It's us first. And I think it's really telling because as far as I know, Cambirai didn't receive any response from Rai, for what they did. So I think it's also very it's this double standard in the Italian society that when it is your pain, we don't care because you're exaggerating, but when it is ours, it has to be important. And I think it's something really it's really telling that the article ended that way. For me, it's really telling.
I think that we should point out here that this is a form of, white fragility. And, as a person who was born in the Caribbean and that grew up in the United States, we hear a lot of talk about white fragility, maybe in the United States, maybe in the UK, but because the conversation is so delayed here in Italy, we're not talking in these terms. And so us complaining about being insulted this way is uncomfortable for people who are in privilege because of white supremacy. They feel uncomfortable the minute we start accusing them of being racist because at the end of the day, no one wants to admit that they're racist, especially if you have access to privilege. You don't want to give up your privilege. You want to ignore the fact that you are in a place of privilege that limits other people's lives. So that's the first thing. It's awkward because I'm saying something mean about you. And the other thing is, a lot of the times people think about racism in terms of the racism that we saw and the discrimination and the laws that we saw in the United States and the violence and the assault and everything that took place in the United States. But it's embedded in the system. So it's taking place. So you might not have a bullhorn, you might not have a hose, you might not have a shotgun, but the fact that you are ignoring the harm that you can have and you can direct to other people, and you're hiding it under satire, you're hiding it under the guise of entertainment, you are not even curious about what you're doing wrong. It's you being complacent in your privilege and the privilege that white supremacy gives you. And that's the thing here. And that's the thing here in Italy. We have to have these conversations. And no, it doesn't look like, hosing people down in the United States. It looks like something else, but it's as dangerous and it is as violent and it is as devastating.
I wanted to add to, I think in the article, because I've read so much after that comments about it, but I also feel like Italians believe that because everything's at the same level. All discriminations are at the same level. When I hear that, but we are also discriminated against in Europe when we go abroad, when they call us pizza, mafia, mandolino, I'm like, do you really think it's the same level? Are you joking?
Yes.
Do you really think?
Yes.
It's not that I'm minimizing because that's true that in the past, in the US, yes, there was discrimination against Italian people, definitely. But right now, in the moment, you are considered white people.
Yes, today,
you
yes.
so it's not the same. It's not the same. You don't die because you're Italian.
Yes.
You don't get refused a flat because you're Italian. You're not insulted because the way you look. It's not the same. Your citizenship give you privilege all around the world, whereas you have in your country you have people that are Italian that does not have this privilege to go around the world because they don't have the citizenship. So I think it's something. I feel like they also, there is a specificity in Italy that where they feel like they are the victims
Yes.
more than any other. I think if I have to compare, for example, with France, where I'm from, we don't have that kind of victimization kind of thing. For me, it's at this level.
Yes. Arlene?
No, I was going to say that yes, back in the day, in like the late 1800s and the early 1900s in the United States, Italians were discriminated against, and some people say, well, I mean, people from maybe northern Italy were like, well, they were Sicilian or um, they were from Naples, but in America, no one cared where in Italy you were from. You were Italian. One of the largest lynchings that ever happened in America was in New Orleans, and it was a group of Italians that were lynched because they thought they had shot a police officer or something. But what ended up happening, just like with other groups that came to America who at first were separate from the WASPs, they were able to become white, and then they started to discriminate against the African Americans who had been there for generations. There's a book called Caste that talks all about this, and yeah, it's apples and oranges. You can't compare what is happening today in the United States with Italian Americans and what is happening here in Italy, because Italian Americans are not even perceived as Italian. They're Americans.
Yes.
They're Americans. That's it.
Yes.
They're white and they're
Yes.
Americans.
Yes, absolutely. And the thing that I've always thought about is I don't know at one point the culture stopped understanding that. Do you know what I'm saying? Like they stopped being able to empathize with being with experiencing racism. And I don't know if it's just like ignoring the fact that this happened to you. Therefore, now that we are accepted into whiteness, to perceive whiteness, which is something that was constructed, we're going to then turn around and victimize others. And it is fascinating to watch from a societal standpoint, from an anthropological standpoint. And that's something that I often think about. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean every group does it. I mean it's the same with white Cubans. I mean it's just it's like they assume the closer you are to white in America, the more you're accepted, the more you're assimilated, and it's been happening since the country was founded, and so it is. Yeah, I don't know, this lack of empathy. I mean, I'm just astounded that in 2021, two people who are on a show that is one of the most popular shows in the country did that, and nobody, no producer, no writer, no executive said, cut, don't do that sketch. They thought it was okay. I'm
Yeah.
just perplexed because, again, this is not 1950. We live in a
Yes.
connected global world. We have the internet. And the only reason why they started to apologize is because, I mean, it was even in the Washington Post, the Seattle Times. And I think they're concerned, like Michelle is concerned because of who she's married to. And they have business in China. And it's not a good look for Trusardi to have the CEO's wife do that on air.
I completely agree. And the other thing is, yes, like we said earlier, we're calling it satire. But in my opinion, if this is the only material that you come up with, you need to fire everyone and go get some creative people. And
They
you
need to
also
cancel
need
the
to,
show.
yeah, you also need to stop you need to stop like working within your network, because within your network there isn't anyone who's going to point out that this is racist. And it's the same thing in other industries. If we hire from within our circles of privilege, if we follow nepotism, if we follow these connections of people who are so out of touch with the world and out of touch with, you know, what year it is, of course this is going to happen. If you care.
That's the thing. I don't think they
we're
care.
presuming that they care.
I don't think they care. I don't like the journalist from La Repubblica who is defending them on Twitter. He did a tweet where he replaced all the R's with L's, and then he had to delete it because he got so much blowback. But I'm like, this is a journalist at La Repubblica, which is not like a far right newspaper. It's center, center left, left. And I'm like, you put that out there into the world. Like you rush to defend them, and people are saying that it's political correctness, it's over the top, it's cancel culture, and I'm really sick of this whole thing of cancel culture. No,
yes,
it's called being
about that.
It's called being accountable for your actions. You could say whatever you want. And people are like, oh, we're trying to get rid of freedom of speech. No, we're not. You can say whatever you want. Freedom of speech doesn't mean that you can pop off and not have your words have any kind of consequences. Freedom of speech only means that the government cannot say to you, you are not able to speak. You can't do this, you can't do that. The government. You can say whatever you want in this day and age, but when you say something that is offensive and someone calls you out and they say so, that's not against your freedom of speech. Like I'm perplexed that people think freedom of speech means freedom from consequences of that speech. No.
100,000. Exactly. We're talking about accountability, and we're talking about change, and we're talking about recognizing the racism and paying attention to it, and digging down deep and understanding what it means, and how you are limiting and offending and, you know, creating inequitable situations for those that you are so casually playing with. You know what I'm saying? Like this sketch took place in a period where, you know, the AAPI community is being attacked globally. Like, well, first of all, in the United States, and then the Asian community is being attacked globally in a horrible year that's been so devastating. And what did you make? Like, huh? Are we not? Like, how?
I mean, it was news here. We saw on the news here. They were talking about what happened in the United States with the shooting in Georgia and all the hate crimes against Asian Americans that's happening in the United States. That's been on the local news here in Italy. So either these two, and nobody at that station or nobody at that channel watches the news. I'm pretty sure they're aware of it. Again, I think they just do not care. They don't care.
I think they don't care. I think they don't care. It's not only about the news in the USA. I think at the beginning of the pandemic, there were many attacks against Asian people in Italy.
Sorry about
So
that.
I think they really don't care about it. It's just like once they have the international eye, this is where they're like, oh my God, maybe we should try to fake behaving, you know. But they don't care. I think they absolutely don't care, because I think they see the news as everybody. You know, they know what's happening in Italy, but they definitely don't care. And for them, I think, putting their eyes like this is just something, irrelevant. They don't think it has an impact on the daily life of other people, around walking,
I see a comment that says that, is it that they don't understand or they don't care? Here's the thing. If we go back to privilege, if we go back, and, we're still trying to get Paige on. I'm going to ask you guys for help in a minute. But I was talking to Paige earlier, and Paige was saying that if your entire life you were never told no, and if your entire life you were only told yes, you can do this, you can do that, you could do this, you could do that, then you don't have to think about any other group, because you can navigate the world and do and accomplish anything you want to do without consequences. You know what I'm saying? We're the criminals. We're the one encroaching on your jobs. We're the ones moving into your country. Notwithstanding the fact that you've exhausted the resources in our home countries, not in the fact that you've exploited our labor, not withstanding the fact that your countries are rich off of our backs, that we have built entire countries, that we have built entire infrastructure of countries. That stuff you don't forget, but you will never ever you will never honor our humanity. Instead, you denigrate it by making fun of our physical aspects. Now, I would like someone else to try to add Paige, because I'm on my computer and I've been trying to do it. If you guys think I'm just going back and forth because I can't WhatsApp her to get her in. Could one of you guys try to add her? This I don't know if it's possible because I started the live.
I don't seem to be able to do it.
I don't think I'll try. I don't think you can. I think only you can add somebody.
I know. So I'm trying, like I've tried all the Pretty Birds account and I've tried her account. There's like a glitch every time she can get in, but like then the video ends. Hold on one second. Hold on one second. I'm trying again. So Paige is coming, guys. We're just having some technical issues.
It's Friday.
It's Friday. It's Friday. So I'm just like looking through the comments, and we're gonna go through them in a little while. But that's the thing. It's the privilege. It's the privilege of not having any consequences, any true consequences. You know, like if historically it was okay to, I mean, if it was, the design of white supremacy was to create rules that basically allowed for the stealing and the robbing of people and the selling of people and the using of people for free labor and the idea of not considering people as humans. So if we're coming from that historical space, and these are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years, today, it doesn't look like the transatlantic slave trade. It looks like privilege propped up by white supremacy, where we don't have to think about the consequences of anything we do. Mm-hmm. And that's where it is. If it's propped up on something so vile, that today that's where it is. Like, they never have to think about hurting someone else. They never have to think about how the riches that they have, how their access to great jobs, how their access to great schools, how their access to whatever thing that we're not fully, we don't have full access to. They don't think about that truly. But the minute when we say, this is traumatizing for us, this is hurtful for us, this is not entertainment, please do not, exploit us so that you can get a cheap laugh somewhere, it's awkward and uncomfortable for them. Meanwhile, we walk around as people of color with all this baggage and with all this trauma, making us physically sick, making us mentally ill. And I can't say that that is hurtful. I can't say that that action you did is hurtful. Are you crazy?
Well, I think it ties on to I think in Italy especially, I think there is a denial to see that they live in a white supremacist society, because they don't want to dig into their proper history. There is always this thing of, but France did worse, England did worse than us, and look at the US. There is this really big denial of seeing that the atrocities they committed, in the Horn of Africa, and how it impacted their society. I think they absolutely don't want to see to see that. And like I said, I'm also going back to this thing of victimization. I really do feel that Italian people have a huge complex. I don't know if it's historical, on how they are viewed by other Europeans. And I do feel that sometimes when you are with them about racism, they're like, but we also are suffering. Look at the people at the south of Italy, how they are treated and everything. Look at how we are treated abroad, all these things. And I really think they really think they are the victims, and that, in comparison, we didn't suffer much because they suffered more. I really feel that there is this problematic there that I think they don't want to impact as well. This is my personal opinion, but the fragility here, I think, is even bigger than any other place I've been, Occidental place I've been. That's my the impression I have, and that's also why I think it's really hard to address racism, because if you look at all the articles, they would never call it a racist act. They would call it a gaffe.
Yes.
They don't use the proper words. They never use the proper words. Italian, also the language, the Italian is not even updated to have all these concepts. So how, if you don't have in your language the concept, how can you start thinking about it? It's not possible. It's not possible. Thankfully, you have people that are working on it, but if you use English, they will always tell you, oh, it's not our stuff because it's American, it's English, because it's not in the language. If you don't have the words, you don't have the concept, then you don't have to think about it. That's how easy it is for them.
Yes, you're right. And that's why I feel that the conversation is delayed here, because that this stage in the movement and this stage in the evolution and the globalization of the world, for them there's a delay. They haven't reached to the space yet, and that's why I'm so grateful for Louis, and that's why I'm so grateful for Diet Prada and for all of the Afro-Italians and allies that are speaking about this and that are staying on this, so that the conversation does take place. And the other thing that we have to be mindful of is it's going to be rough. It's going to be rough, because look at globally the situation. First of all, we have to acknowledge every culture is different, and every culture reaches this point of reckoning at a different time. So we do have to acknowledge that. There has been a lot of movement recently here in Italy. Thank God. I'm so grateful for that we're having these conversations now. But you're right. The language and the sentiment and the psyche, it's just not here yet, And look, the white supremacy is a fucked up bitch, people. It's a fucked up bitch because it's psychologically, first of all, it needs people to be, it needs every player, right? It needs everybody to be under its effect, right? In order to work. So if you're saying a culture is not ready to acknowledge racism, that is the structure of white supremacy. We all need to be complacent in this game, and we all need to be active participants. So I think that's another part of it, because the moment everyone starts to really work towards anti-racism, that's what we've all been saying, that's what we've learned so eloquently this year from activists, from academics, that dismantling, dismantling white supremacy and moving toward anti-racism is key. It's key to bringing equity for everyone, and that's the thing. But the point is that everybody is complicit in this awful, awful thing that is white supremacy, and this is how it works for whole cultures. The fact that they cannot get there and realize what racism is, realize how they're being racist, that they don't want to acknowledge it because it's a slap in the face. What would they lose? First of all, they would lose something. They would lose that privilege. They would lose, ignorance is bliss. They would lose the ability to go around and to navigate the world without having any consequences, without thinking about who they're hurting, without having privilege here. They would have to lose that. So you keep that. You keep that, and it's what we see in other, it's what we see in other situations, and these are just like strategies that work. You think about the working class in the United States. I'm just using that as an example. So I'm an immigrant twice over. So, I'm a Jamaican, and yes, my mom had 3 jobs. And, like, you could say that my mom was taking away someone's job. And then that's the first way to say, now you have immigrants coming in, and, you have brown immigrants coming in, and look at what they're taking away from us. Like, it's part of this political game that it's capitalism as related to white supremacy, which is one of the foundations for white supremacy.
There is, I've seen a comment there from my partner in crime on the podcast saying that today the Fatto Quotidiano has a big title using the N word to support the freedom of speech.
I'm sorry, who?
The Fatto Quotidiano.
See?
This is another newspaper. So I am quite. This freedom of speech is also something that we discussed it earlier, but I want to kind of try to think about it, because freedom of speech doesn't mean that you have to say everything you want, because you live in a society with other people, and as such you have to be mindful about the people you live with. You cannot say everything you want.
But wait a minute. So this newspaper just had a headline with the word regarding this whole discussion,
mm-hmm.
or? But this is the thing. Like I'm straight, and I remember when we were much younger, people would drop the F-bomb all the time, not having anything to do with being gay or homosexual. It's more like, oh, so and so, stop being such a blah blah blah. And then you were told that word was not appropriate, that word was hateful, don't use that word. I don't understand why these people have an issue when somebody says, please do not use that word, it's offensive. And they're not from the group that is asking them not to use the word, and they get like really like upset about it. Like I don't understand it. You're not like this, even the thing with Michelle and Jerry. I'm sorry, you're not Asian. Why are you telling Asian people how they should feel about what you did? You're not Black. Why are you telling us that we should be okay with you dropping this word? Like, no. And I know there's a difference between the word with the G in it and the word that doesn't have the G in it. I'm talking about in the Italian word. And when I first moved here, I remember I was at a dinner party and it came up, and someone she really didn't know, she thought the 2 words were interchangeable. And so another Italian said, no, that word with the G has a completely different connotation, and please do not say it, especially since you travel a lot. You're going to go to the United States and you're going to Canada. Don't say the word. And she was like, okay, I get it. Okay, that was like 12 years ago. I do not understand why some, not all, some Italians cannot understand, why they cannot grasp.
I think it's provocation. It's provocation. I think it's pure provocation. They don't care.
What is the point of the provocation? Like what? You're being edgy? That's like not like what is that? Because they think we have no power here, so they can just do whatever they want.
And you know what? If that's the case, the anger is absolutely warranted. The anger, the offense, the demanding of accountability is, warranted. So in these cases, when this provocation takes place, I say to you, yes, I'm angry. Yes, it's offensive. And if you want to gamble and take this risk, then the foreign publications are going to pick it up, and then you're going to be scrambling, and justifiably so. Justifiably so. So I hope to you that it's worth it for these cheap laughs. And I know that you guys could probably inform us. I think that the viewership was very high. So now, mainstream Italy has seen this, and I, for one, know that these are two highly regarded individuals here in Italy. And now all of these people who look up to them, who respect them, this is the message that you're sending, notwithstanding the fact that globally, Asian people are being attacked. And this is the same way it worked in the United States. You know, a provocation like this is ending in harm to Asian people. So just from a human standpoint, you might want to think about that. You might want to think about that because you're giving people ammunition to harm people. And if you're a human, that's not okay on any level. Level. So that's the thing here. Satire. Is satire worth provoking harm and ridicule against a community? Is it
But
really
it's not even
worth
satire.
it?
But that's
It's not, but
I'm
I'm just
offended
saying from
also that it's not
their
funny.
vantage point, it's satire. I don't think it's satire. I 100% agree with you, but it's even a bad excuse to call it that. Because it's provoking hate. It's provoking hate.
But it's not even, also just on another level, it was offensive because it wasn't funny. Like that skit is something that maybe, I think even a kindergartner would not do that because it's just not funny. Like a grown adult sat up there, squinted their eyes and was speaking gibberish, and the laugh track, I don't even know if it's a live audience, but everybody's like, ha 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 ha, laughing. And I'm like, it's 2021. You look ridiculous. And now that this is global, you're so hypersensitive about how Italians are perceived in the world. This is not a good look. It's not a good look for you. No, it's not. No.
Emmanuel, and then we'll go through the comments. Emmanuel, do you have something else to add?
I'm just gonna say that I'm gonna speak about Cambierai a little bit again.
Please.
So there is an email you can go to show your support because there is this operation that called mail bombing, and I think it's Cambierai backup, Cambierai 2020 backup at gmail.com. You can send you can write to them and they will send you information on how to do the mail bombing. So try to support the cause. I think we're gonna post on Black Coffee after the email for you if you want to participate. But please do, even if you are not Italian, show your support because it's really an important issue for all Italians that are non-white, but also for Italy as a society in general, because they are really fed up. It's really tiring for them. I'm sorry there is not an Italian person with me to tell you this. So I'm just here as a representative of Cambierai. So please try to be understanding of a people that is not recognized. So it's not, they don't even have the citizenship when they are born in their own country, which is ridiculous. And then they are mocked every day, and also they are killed, because that's something also that maybe people abroad don't see. You have Italians that black belonging to the Asian community that are killed every day because of racism. It's not just the US, it happens here too. So please do support, because this kind of what they call satire just leads to this kind of thing, being ridiculed, being bullied, and being killed. So please do participate. Is really important.
We've pinned the email here, so it's right here.
Okay. Thank you.
And then I'm just gonna go through the comments now from below. So a lot of people are commenting on the fact that they were born in that's the case. They were born here. They don't have their citizenship. And then Owen says it was a joke made by Caucasians to make Caucasians laugh using other ethnicities. Yes, and it's hurtful. It's so hurtful. Like it's devastatingly hurtful that you make fun of my physical appearance for cheap laughs. Italian brands have been caught out over the years. Yes, because we hire from within. We need to hire an inclusive group of candidates so that they can educate us in the entire company, not just the design team, but also in the corporate team. We need to see more people of color, more diverse ethnicities within the organization from the ground up. We can learn, and in learning, we can change society.
Yes.
By their actions, yes, any child that has access to this kind of programming, they're learning, racist tropes. It's very dangerous for society. It's dangerous for society, and children are so impressionable, and children learning these things from an early age, they're going to grow up with it.
Right. Is this show still have like the Veline dancing on the side of the two older men?
I'm not sure.
I think it still does, and that says a lot too. I mean, I thought that kind of went away, but no. In 2021, we still have that.
I think.
Sorry, excuse me.
They are in the letter written by Cambirai. They explain that the Italian television is not representative of what is happening outside. So. In the sense that it's not only about race, but it's also about the way you represent women, the way you are not showing people from the LGBTQA+ community, the way you they always try to represent an Italian society that was there maybe 60, 70 years ago. And that is not at all representative of what is happening right now. There is no talks about feminism, and as far as I know, if there is, it's a very Manichaean type of feminism, white feminism. So it's also about intersectionality that doesn't exist in these spaces. So I think it's important to say that too, that the television is not representative at all of the Italian society. It's representative of
something very conservative and kind of old school. And I do think that there is this thought that it's like one extreme or the other, that if we get rid of the Veline or whatever, that all of a sudden they're going to be like America where nobody can flirt. And I remember talking to this younger Italian woman, and she was saying how like she'd worked in DC, and how, in an Italian office, if someone says to you, "Oh, I really like your shoes," or "That skirt is great," like that's not something you would be offended by. You'd be like, "Oh, thank you, Gian Piero." Where she said, like in the States, like it didn't happen because they were like, "Oh, I don't want any trouble," blah blah blah. And I think there is this real fear that if just because we address these issues like sexism, that all of a sudden the society is going to completely change, and no one can say ciao anymore, no one can say ma quanta sei bella. Like it's just going to be like the Puritans. And I'm like, that's not true.
Nuances. That's what they don't understand, that it's all in the nuances. You have different nuances. Yes. It's a different way that you say, oh, it's you have a pretty skirt that,
Exactly. It's all about how you say things. No one is asking, no one is saying that, you have to change the society to be like, whatever, not to be yourself. But there are some issues here that need to be addressed, and you can't pretend they don't exist. And one of them, like you brought up with the way women are portrayed on these shows, is horrific. And there are actual schools like women like, oh, I want to be a Veline, like that is my goal in life. Like there's got to be options.
Yeah, not to say that also Veline, when you say what women, Veline were often Latin American women. That also tells.
Yeah.
Or they see the American women.
And some of them are very famous and have had amazing careers and built off of that, but I just don't know how sustainable that is.
Yeah. Someone said the journalist was complaining about the fact that, like you were saying, the change will kill certain conventions in this country. It's 2021, and we need to move on from those conventions.
I know. I was actually shocked. I think it was Beppe, I don't know how to pronounce his last name, who writes for Corriere della Sera and the New York Times, and I really enjoyed reading his books. I was shocked because he was defending them, and also because in the States, Hank Azaria, who voiced this Indian character on The Simpsons for like 10 years, was saying how he realized like it was a stereotype and blah, blah, blah. So he was saying, oh, this is terrible. So like now what, Monty Python is going to apologize for like what they did in the UK, and I'm like, this guy's not getting it at all. I don't know if it's his age or what, but I was shocked actually.
Yeah, you know, Paige, who couldn't be here with us because of these technical difficulties, she was touching upon all of these points when she was talking about freedom of speech, earlier, and she was saying, saying that basically cancel culture, and then um, speaking to that issue conversation, it's a blatant manipulation of what freedom of speech means. We're not saying that, like you guys were saying, we're not saying that you can't say these things, but you have to understand the implications of what you're saying, and you have to be cognizant of the nuances. It's key. You have to be cognizant of what the nuances are, and you know what? Don't try to be forbo, as they say. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't try to use that excuse when it benefits you. Don't. You know what I mean? We can see right through it. Other comments? Obviously there's some comments here that don't merit any attention. So I mean, I think like what to do. I think the fact that this week and Diet Prada and Lewis's coverage of this issue, and the fact that it got international attention, the conversation has started, and I think that there needs to be more of this. There needs to be more of this. There needs to be more of these conversations. We need to create spaces where we can be very frank and where we can be very honest, because for people of color, we have to contend with like losing our lives. Like, we also wanted to talk about what's happening in the United States this week, that Black bodies continue to be murdered by law enforcement, but that's what we live in. So we need to continue to have these conversations, because in a sense it's life or death for us. It's life or liberty for us. It's like, it's always been like such a drastic struggle for us. So we want to encourage everyone to continue to have these conversations. It's not fair for us to feel awkward anymore about having these conversations. It's not fair for us to try to placate and to make white people feel comfortable in their privilege, when it's so harmful for us psychologically. All this trauma leads to poor health. It leads to us getting sick, and it's just not, it's not fair to us with everything we have to deal with in a global world. It's not fair that we should sit back and let someone insult us and insult the communities that we're in solidarity with. So these conversations are key, and speaking up is key. And it's very interesting when Jerry Scotty says his Chinese friends didn't say anything about the skit. Here's the thing. We've all done that. We've all sit through cringe-worthy comments about our communities. We have to stop that. Why do we still feel awkward? Why do we still go home? And they go home and they feel completely okay. Meanwhile, we go home and we cry. We go home and we feel nauseous. We go home the next day, we still feel sick. And that stuff is cumulative. We walk into a store and we take that and we transmute it into something else. We walk into the store, they're following me. They think that I don't belong here because of the color of my skin. People are moving and closing their wallets because of the color of skin. I go to a restaurant. They definitely don't treat me the same way. Like, why do I have to feel like that for your comfort and for your benefit?
Exactly. And also want to add that why do they see, because this is what happened with Camden, a lot of journalists, when they receive this email from the mail bombing, describe the action as violent. I was like, so the fact that you are receiving a letter explaining you why what is happening on TV is not all right, is violent, when you are using violent language, on TV, that then leads to physical violence on the real world. I don't understand where there's violence, they don't understand what means that when they receive a letter, when we express our discontent, it's violence. When we do a sit-in, for them, it's violence. And when, and you know, everything we do, even in the legal space, is considered violence. But when they actually do something really violent, it's not. I want to. What is this? I want to understand that. Why, when we try to be civil, it's not even we try. We are civil. Why it is considered violence? When you are not civil, you show disrespect to us. And for you, your disrespect is not violence, it's a joke.
Yeah.
We have to take it as a joke.
Exactly.
I don't understand.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's the thing. Hopefully they will start to listen to this and stop throwing up the playbook with why they're not racist. You know, instead of listening to the problem. It's hurtful. It's offensive. You're causing me harm and you're bringing harm upon me.
But they don't care that they're doing that. That's the plan. I think they will care when it hurts their pocketbooks. They only care if it hurts their income. Sponsors maybe leave the show. So moving forward, I think they're going to be on the wrong side of history. They're already on the wrong side of history. And the world is changing. I have hope in the younger generation who don't even watch these stupid shows. And I don't know, their audiences will get smaller and smaller and smaller. And they're going to have to wake up. And it's not our job to educate them about everything because there's Google. And they need to read a book. They need to learn some history. And when people say to you, that is offensive, instead of being very defensive and talking about how you're fat and you're bald and so you've been discriminated against, listen, learn, and do better. Like, do an apology on the show, not on your Instagram stories that disappear, not in the paper. Do it on the show where you have your millions of viewers who saw you do the skit. And what I also annoys me still is that they've not even addressed the Vi Congo skit. They're only talking about, you know, the last.
Because this is what because it was hurting the wallet of Troussard. That's why they didn't address the white Congo, because they don't see black people as having buying power. They don't, because in the Italy black people are just, you know, not having money, you know. So
Yikes.
Chris, who you know, Arlene, he was here earlier, and he said they missed out on a huge opportunity to do exactly what you were saying, to apologize on the show, to show, you know. I think they missed an opportunity, among others, to acknowledge what they could learn from this, whether they intended to be offensive or not. They offended someone and let that take on its space, I think he meant to write. So yes. So, like you said, these are the issues on the table. I think that now that we have international coverage of these issues, I think, you know, like I was saying, everyone needs to continue to share this story, to share instances like these when they happen, because if it takes the international exposure to get these conversations going, then that's worth it. We'll take that, right? We'll take that. We'll take that. Because the conversation needs to happen, and if this is the way that it happens, then be it. You know what I'm saying? And you know what? Really, at the end of the day, if it takes sponsors pulling out, and that's the action that it takes, that's fine too, as long as the message and the issue is put out there, and people, and it gets more exposure, so that people who do want to change, people who are interested, so that also people know that it's not okay. Because if like you said, let's just talk money. If a sponsor is pulling out, it means that it's not okay. If that's your language, let's use that language.
That's
I will
fine.
communicate with you whichever way we need to communicate, just so that it stops. If we have to play that game, so
yeah,
you know,
it's fine.
Exactly. Fine.
So
Fine by me.
I want to thank everyone for joining us. I'm really sorry that we could not loop Paige in. We had a huge technical fail tonight. I'm going to go ahead and save the live now, and everyone's handle is going to be in the live. So make sure you follow everyone, because both Arlene and Emmanuel are active in talking about these issues. Emmanuel is working directly to share these stories. Her content is directed at sharing these stories and exploring the Black experience in Europe, basically, because you're all over the place, girl. And so please support them. Please, please support them. Please, spread these stories when you see them. Please, you don't have to feel awkward anymore. If something is bothering you, is hurting you, if someone is making you feel uncomfortable at your expense, at the expense of your physical features, say something. It's not worth it, because we have to value ourselves, and we know now that we have value and we have worth, and we're not going to let anyone else determine what that is. So you guys want to say something in closing?
No, I would say thank you for moderating and inviting us. I think this was a great conversation, and it's important to talk about these things, even if they can be painful. I did see that Michelle said that they were receiving death threats, and if that's true, I would just say, you know what, that's not, we don't need to do that. I think we can get our points across without threatening to kill people. But that said, I also sometimes, it's deflecting from what the bigger issue is, and so I just, like I said, I hope that this continues, these conversations, and that this is not swept under the rug. I don't think it will be swept under the rug, because I think it's too big an issue, and I feel like we're on the other side now, and people know that we're watching, and we'll call them out. We're not just going to sit here and let you have a guest say she doesn't like her photo because she looks like a whatever, and the interviewer just laughs. She doesn't, or she's like, oh, she doesn't say anything. Exactly. That can't happen anymore.
Exactly. We're about accountability, and I just want to stress and emphasize what Arlene said. We want to channel our anger into something positive. We want to channel it into a megaphone where we are, sharing our stories, and we're making, white people understand how they are traumatizing, how they continue to hurt us, how their racism continues to devastate our communities. That's what we're doing. This is not about canceling. This is about encouraging people to take the opportunity to look within and to work towards anti-racism. And this is what this space is about. And I just want to emphasize what Arlene said: no negativity, no violence, nothing like that. Just introspection and commitment to anti-racism, So, Emmanuel, before we go, would you like to say something?
Well, thank you for giving me, the occasion to talk with you too. It was really interesting. And about that death threats, obviously I don't condone this. And like you said, we need to go about our anger positively, because I really believe that anger is a very important tool when used wisely. You can use it exactly like we are doing with Cambirai, even though people see it as well as not violence. It is a means that we are trying to use to start a conversation with these people on the media, to try to explain them that right now things needs to change. It's not about dictatorship or something. It's to open a dialogue, and this is what we are all about. And also that, and to make them understand that we need respect. We need respect as much as also they need respect. We need respect too, because we are human beings. That's the conversation we want to start with them. The movement Cambirai is absolutely not there be violent. It's we see it as a table, where we are inviting people to come and talk about these issues of anti-racism, and we just want them to just listen to us. That's all we want, and then have a proper dialogue, about how we can go about this.
Thank you for introducing us, and we will please follow the hashtag and the movement. So I want to wish you guys a restful and restorative weekend. It's been a really, really difficult week, and let's just vibrate higher.
Yes.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Lots of love. Bye.
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 Buenas noches.
Bye.